Rink is a presentation of Able Auctions. If you're closing your business, selling your assets, email sales@ableauctions.ca. They can help. You can't pick up Andrei Kuzmenko at an Able auction, but you can pick him up as a free agent, as the Vancouver Canucks have done. J-Pat getting the highly touted KHL Russian player to sign in North America with the Canucks. And honestly, came as a surprise to me. I thought Edmonton was going to be the ones that were going to be able to pull it off, but the Canucks land Kuzmenko. And Rick Dhaliwal, who is always talking to the agents, joins us now from Donnie and Dhali, of course, on CHEK TV. Catch the podcast as well, wherever you find your podcast. So you were saying last week that you had a very, very good feeling about this. And as I mentioned, I didn't see it happening. For a one-year deal, I thought, you know what? You go to Edmonton, you get all those points, and then you figure out what to do after that. But clearly the sell was hard here in Vancouver, Dhaliwal, and they were able to get it done, which, again, I'm quite surprised by it all.
Well, I'm going to take you back to day one. And the Canucks were a team very high on Kuzmenko's list. Vancouver has been following this player for a very long time. GM Patrick Alvin and President Jim Rutherford go back to their Pittsburgh days. They liked him. Like, I'm going to tell you guys something. The Canucks they didn't beat out the four finalists. They got the second interview city to city. They beat out essentially 25 teams to get this player. They've been high on the list for a long, long time. And he just felt good, Andre, about Vancouver. He had a good connection with the Canucks management, especially the GM Alvin. And Canucks owner Francesco Aquilini was not in Vancouver when Kuzmenko came to town. But as Jim Rutherford told me, Aquilini, Bruce Boudreau, Alvin, everybody played a role in getting this player to Vancouver. But I'm going to take you back to about 9 days ago when Bruce Boudreau drove 6 hours for a meeting in Ann Arbor, Michigan to meet Kuzmenko and his agent. Patrick Alvin drove long distance to get there. That was the big meeting, the gathering in Michigan that really sold Kuzmenko on Vancouver. He was really impressed with management. The visit to Vancouver last week was just a formality. It was the Michigan meeting that sealed the deal. And he was just really impressed with this management group. And I think the Canucks, this is a feel-good win for an organization that hasn't had a lot of feel-good wins in the past 10 years. And this new management group came in and they did it right. And they got this guy. Now, look, whether he's a player or not is up to the player. It's always up to the player. Mm-hmm. But getting this player when 25, 26 teams are after him, that's a win for the Vancouver Canucks organization. The rest is up to Kuzmenko. He's got to come in. And from all reports and people I've talked to in Russia, I talked to his coach today. If he gets the right line, the right ice time, trust from the coach, this guy should be a player at the NHL level.
Rick, just clarify if you can, because you talk about this meeting in Ann Arbor, and then you mentioned that the visit to Vancouver was a formality. Who did he meet with here in Vancouver?
Well, the owner wasn't a part of the meetings. I think it was, basically the GM, the staff, looking around the city. I really, and the other thing is, like, I use the word formality because the Canucks were the fifth destination on this tour, and they were going to meet in Vancouver regardless, Jeff. He got to see the city. There was a couple of sunny days. He was impressed. But the way it was broken down to me, I think Kuzmenko started leaning towards Vancouver last Friday. Then Sunday, it became more cemented in his head. And then this morning, I guess he just got up and said, let's do it. I was always led to believe the decision was coming Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday this week. It was always articulated to me after Vancouver, give us some time. But I believe this kid got so excited about Vancouver over the weekend that he kind of just pushed that timetable way up to this morning. And I just think the Canucks, but I will go and say again, and Jeff, it was just it just looks like to me, Alvin and his staff met with him in Vancouver, but it was told to me today that meeting in Michigan, and Bruce Boudreau has watched a ton of tape on this player, so he could tell him, how he's going to fit in the lineup from that perspective. I just think, Jeff, that everything came together on the weekend. And it was supposed to take a lot longer than today. But I think the kid got excited about Vancouver on the weekend and said, let's do it.
And we can all look at the stats on a stats sheet. He had a terrific regular season. He had a nice playoff run as well, was almost a point-a-game guy in the playoffs. But the people that you talk to, Rick, what do they tell you about him as a player? Because it seems to me the people that know Kuzmenko as a player, they talk that, yeah, he's got skill and offense, but really it's the fact that he's one of these guys whose engine is always running.
Yes. And so I talked to his Russian coach, Roman Rottenberg, today, and he just raved about his offense. His offensive skills, good on the power play, great shot, good in the corners, in the slot, works hard. He did say that he's got to, improve on his defensive play. And Jeff, no one's covered more junior hockey than you. When a kid lights it up at the junior level and then he's got to go to the pro level, the first thing the coach tells him, hey, kid, is not one zone on the ice. There's three, and you got to play better in all three zones. So that is a part of it. But with offensive players, all they ever want is the opportunity to produce offense. Give me, the trust from the coach. Give me the confidence. Give me the power play time. Give me all that. If you earn it and you can produce, then everything's great. But like I said at the outset of this interview, how Kuzmenko does in Vancouver is up to him. Just like every other free agent signing the Canucks have made from Europe and Russia and everywhere else, they come to Vancouver. There's an adjustment period. We saw it with, Goldobin. We saw that adjustment, Utica, Vancouver. These kids come out, after, like you mentioned, a great year. And he did have a great year. And his coach did say to me, he said, he was a real treat to watch. Jim Rutherford, when I talked to him today, raving about the kid, called him the top free agent in Russia. So he's got things to work on. There's going to be a period, it's a smaller ice surface, more physicality, less time and space. You got to fight for every inch. So it's up to him, Jeff. It really, really, really is. But I think the Vancouver Canucks did their part. They got a player that 25, 26 teams are after. That's a huge win. Now it's up to the player.
Now, we know the skill set of the player at the KHL level, Rick. Has anything been promised to him at the NHL level here? Or is he going in there just like anyone else, fighting it out, trying to win a spot as a, sort of quote unquote rookie?
Yeah, that's a great question, Andrew, because a week ago I was told that, the player's agent was asking, for certain things from teams. And I was told today that he gets no guarantees in Vancouver. His agent, Dan Milstein, told me he's coming to camp. No promises, no guarantee. He's going to have to earn his ice. And you really can't, every coach in this market. Travis Green was the king of he's got to earn the ice. Willie D he's got to earn the ice. Every coach, you have to earn the ice. There's just nothing guaranteed in life. And according to his agent, Milstein, there are no guarantees, and there was never any discussed. That was a rumor out there about a week ago, but Dan, the agent, really shot that down today with me.
What do you think put Vancouver over the top? I mean, obviously it's a world-class city, and all due respect to Edmonton, it's not Vancouver in terms of lifestyle, but there was the opportunity to play with the two greatest players in the world. And as I mentioned in podcasts before, inflate those numbers. But he chose Vancouver. What do you think put it over the top? And I know you talked to Milstein, so I'd like to hear your thoughts.
It's funny. You bring up Edmonton, because about 4, 5, 6 weeks ago, everybody thought Kuzmenko to Edmonton was a done deal. Mm-hmm. And the agent kept telling me, he said, look, I don't know where this is coming from. And you obviously know the Oilers would have said to him, power play time with McDavid and Draisaitl. Come on. I mean, that had to be a part of the pitch. A child of 4 can figure that out. And yet he picked Vancouver. And one thing that Rutherford said to me that stuck out was, Vancouver, he said, this is exciting for us. We added the number 1 free agent in Russia. He's skilled, smart, good in the power play. We feel good about it. The city of Vancouver, we had a lot to offer. And when you're coming in on that plane, you see the mountains, the water, it's a sunny day. The city of Vancouver played a role in this as well. But I really believe, I got to be honest with you guys. I thought it would probably come down to Vancouver and Edmonton just because of the McDavid thing and the power play and Draisaitl. But according to Dan, he was really blown away by Boudreau and Alvin in Michigan. I'm gonna say this again. The meeting in Vancouver was great. You got to see the city. But I was told today that meeting in Ann Arbor, Michigan, that's where Milstein's office is. I was told that was a really crucial, important meeting, and it really kind of swayed Andrei towards Vancouver. So I was told that. I really was.
How good do you feel about the fact that, like, really all things considered, Kuzmenko is a pretty easy Russian name to pronounce?
I've been lucky because I got Goldobin was easy, Tryamkin was easy, and Kuzmenko's easy. Remember that guy that went in the draft last year or the year before? Oh my goodness. There's one coming up here in the first round, guys. Miroschenko. I think I get petrified. I start sweating when I see certain names. I'm not gonna lie to you.
You know, Double A is a free agent here in a couple of weeks.
Hey, and so Thomas Drance puts Double A in his article. I called Double A's agent the other day and I said, hey, no Vancouver. Go elsewhere. But Double A is the tough one. I have a real tough time with that name. But I'm going to tell you guys something. I think this is a good day for Canuck fans who have, for the past 10 years. And look, the player has to come and play and be productive. That's on him. But for the Vancouver Canucks to outbid essentially 25 teams to get this player speaks volumes. And this new regime, I know Donnie always says to me, they haven't done anything right. They haven't done much yet. But I will come back and say, whatever they've done so far, they've done right. And the messaging is more clear. There's more clarity. When you hear Jim Rutherford talk, guys, like I put him in the category of Pat Quinn and Brian Burke. When those two guys talk, you listen, right? You just absolutely listen because they commanded respect. And I think Rutherford is like those two in the sense that when you hear him talk publicly, he's a great voice for the Canucks because he gives you clarity. There always seems to be a plan with this guy. And they went out after Kuzmenko and they got it done. And they beat out a team that's got McDavid and Draisaitl, who was obviously telling the agent and the player that you can play with him on the power play, or possibly maybe even, a 5-on-5. I don't know that. But they had two incredible athletes, two of the best hockey players on the universe that were in their side or their arsenal in recruiting this player, and the Canucks still beat them. So it's a good day for the franchise, I think. And the rest now is up to the player to produce.
But I think just picking up on that point, Rick, 3 weeks out from free agency, and obviously the draft is before then, but you touched on it, but it is a good day for the city of Vancouver, for Canuck fans, but for that front office as well, because they, in terms of touching the roster, they really hadn't done an awful lot.
No.
They elected to stay with the group that they had for the most part because it was winning and wanted to see where that was going to go. And ultimately it fell a little bit short of the stated goal of making the playoffs. But just in terms of Alvin and Rutherford putting their fingerprints, to me, this talks about having a plan, identifying a player, making the pitch, and ultimately landing this guy. That has to give the fan base some confidence, knowing that 3 weeks from now, they're going to go into free agency for the first time. And, let's see what they can do in terms of executing the plan for unrestricted free agency.
Yeah, and that's it. And that's it. And you nailed it. And I don't like taking shots at the previous regime because they did a lot of good things too. They, drafted some pretty good talent in the top 10 who are basically your core, very good young core. So I don't like doing that. But I will say there's a big difference in the messaging for this franchise under the new regime, Jeff. And there's more clarity. There's more confidence when you listen to them. And I think that they got a plan. I really do. I'm hearing a lot of names that the Canucks have interest in the UFA market, albeit I'm hearing a lot more forwards and defense. Maybe Jeff, they got a plan to move a defenseman. I don't know. But it certainly seems, and I'm getting vibes from agents. I talked to an agent in Abbotsford who said it's much, much better in terms of his client, a young kid in Abbotsford, and the visibility. And, every night the Sedin twins are there, and, Clancy's there, and Alvin shows up, and it's just good for those kids, because those kids in Utica never knew when the Canucks front office was ever going to watch a game. And they never knew that, is the GM here, is the coach here, or sorry, who's here from Vancouver. Now they know that the Sedin twins, they got their eyes on Abbotsford every night. And there's a much different feel about the organization. And I really do believe it's for the better.
Okay, so now you add Kuzmenko, and just judging by what I've seen from the player, and I haven't seen a whole lot outside of maybe some YouTube clips, but he looks like he's a skill set that would be, top 6 level player. So bit of a log jam now, it seems like, Ricky, in that top 6. What's the future for perhaps Brock Boeser? Is there going to be a JT Miller re-signing or extension, or perhaps maybe they're going to dangle him? Where do you see the Canucks going here?
With Boeser, I really get the feel this management group wants him back. Like when I first asked Jim about, Boeser and all these trade rumors at the deadline, he said it's very risky to trade young goal scorers because they're the hardest thing to find in the National Hockey League. Because when the Canucks new regime got here, the first thing they said is we're looking for players in the 20 to 25 age group. So I'm sitting there going, everybody wants Boeser out of town. Well, it doesn't make sense on so many fronts. Yeah, okay, if you're, he's a perennial 20, 25 goal scorer, and it's risky to trade goal scorers who are young because they're so hard to find. Boeser, and they've already come out and said that they're going to qualify him. So that's a positive for me. I don't see Boeser as an issue, or at least, as of right now. Everybody asks about Garland and Miller. And I'll tell you one thing Jim Rutherford said to me today, which was very interesting. He said, in recruiting Kuzmenko, he said, we got centermen. We're strong up the middle. And he mentioned Paterson, Miller, and Horvat. And so he mentioned being strong up the middle. And we got these centermen that he can play with. So they're very close to the best on what they're going to do. I really believe they're going to try and sign Miller. And if they can do it, great. If they can't, then obviously I think everybody in the city knows they're going to have to move him. Garland's at a really good price term. He's got everything you want. He's a buzzsaw. He works hard. And so I don't know. And Garland, maybe he's not the biggest guy. And we did hear, Jim say, hey, Sandpaper, bigger, stronger. The Canucks are not one of the heaviest set teams in the NHL, and they haven't been for years. They've always been out there looking for size and grit. And maybe they changed the makeup of that bottom 6, considering some of the names I've, heard that they've been linked to on the free agent market in terms of sandpaper size and grit. Boy, I tell you, the guy in Tampa Bay that went there from Ottawa.
Yeah. Nick Paul.
Yeah. How would he not look good in Vancouver? And, I'm talking about Nick Paul, and those are the type of guys, that would really help. This Ilya Mikheyev, your Maple Leafs guy there, Andrew, he's a guy that if he hits the UFA market, boy, he's going to have a ton of teams after him too.
Yeah, buyer beware there, though. I'll tell you that. He had that one bit of an outlier of a season, but I've never seen a guy that can get to the net better and just not finish, though. So be tough with Mikheyev. He's
and the other thing, the Canucks, and Jeff has alluded to this, they're not the fastest team in the NHL. And when you watch Colorado in the Stanley Cup Finals, and you just sit there and go, my goodness.
Yeah.
And they're in your conference. Will the Canucks ever get that fast? Like that? You just watch these players, cross the blue line into the Tampa Bay zone in waves, and then you got a young Bowen Byram skates like the wind. And, their first pair in Colorado is so good. I don't know. It's you look at Colorado and you just think how far, not just the Canucks, but so many other teams have to go to get to that level.
Double A is the answer, Ricky. I'm telling you, you want to get fast. Double A, he's your guy.
I tell you what, though, Ricky, I mean, it is a good problem to have, though, just to have, to have that many top forwards and then be able to see what you can do with it. And you're right. They got to get some puck moving defensemen. So maybe they move along one of those forwards. We'll have to see. And we'll be bugging you about that as we go forward, because officially, this offseason is starting to rev up now for the Canucks as we get the Kuzmenko news.
Yeah, it is.
We'll get more once the Stanley Cup final finishes off. By the way, Dhaliwal, too, before we let you go here, I just have to remind you, when you're out on the golf course, you have to count every shot. You know that, right? So when you're playing, just that one that you end up, hitting 40 yards, you got to hit it again afterwards. You count that one. That one you put in the water, you got to count that one. All right. So
hey, hold it a second. Hey, Paterson has seen us both golf. Who's better, Jeff?
Oh, don't make me choose here.
He's already told. Listen, Dhaliwal. Listen, he's already told me.
There's no right
I know the answer,
question.
so don't worry about it. Yeah.
Hey, Jeff has privately told me I am better. So we'll leave it at that.
I'll tell you what. Once I get this cast off, we will have a round. We'll have the match.
You're
the best.
We'll have the match.
You're just a hack. Yeah. I got pictures of you in the bushes. You know I do.
I bet you do. All right, Dhaliwal. You keep bugging those agents, and we'll be bugging you again. All right. Thanks.